Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Michael Ayala.
And I'm Judge Ashley Wilcott. We begin this hour in Florida, where matriarch mastermind Donna Adelson is being sentenced today. Adelson was found guilty last month of orchestrating a murder-for-hire plot to kill her daughter's ex-husband.
FSU law professor Dan Markel was gunned down in 2014 as he was pulling into the garage of his Tallahassee home. Adelson is now the 5th person to be convicted in the death of Markel. Adelson's son Charlie was found guilty in 2023, along with the 2 hitmen and Charlie's ex-girlfriend who solicited the hitmen, who are all now serving life behind bars.
Well, let's go back inside the courtroom. It's been a lot to watch, a lot of good stuff going on. Right now, we're going to bring you more from the sentencing. The defense continues its argument to the judge.
There have been several co-defendants who have either been tried or entered pleas and received sentences. I want to, for this particular argument, relate exclusively to Luis Rivera. He testified in the trial, and through himself and other witnesses, Your Honor has heard what he did in this case. And what he did in this case compared to what the state has alleged and the jury found that Mrs. Adelson did, the culpability levels are very different. Mr. Rivera was allowed to enter a plea to second-degree murder. And although, as the PSI indicates, he received a sentence of 19 years in the Department of Corrections, that was run concurrent with a sentence he was already serving in a completely unrelated matter in a federal case where he got a 12-year sentence. So the number of years that he will actually serve for his participation in the homicide of Dan Markel is 7 years in the state of Florida Department of Corrections. His conduct, as Your Honor can recall, is that he traveled to Tallahassee sometime in June and scoped out the home of Danny Markel, engaged in some drug activity with Sigfredo Garcia, and then returned to South Florida. A few weeks later, he returned to Tallahassee and again scoped out Danny Markel's house. But he didn't just do that. Prior to arriving in Tallahassee, with himself knowing that he and Sigfredo Garcia were going to kill Danny Markel, he purchased and provided the very firearm that was used to kill Danny. He came to Tallahassee and they sat in wait outside his home. They followed him with Mr. Rivera being the driver, followed him while he took his 2 little boys to daycare, and he sat and watched as Mr. Markel, hand in hand, took those children inside the daycare. He then followed Mr. Markel all the way to the gym, sitting in wait. What was he waiting for? He knew what he was waiting for. Mr. Markel did not. He had no clue that these men were outside in a car just waiting for him to go to a place where they could shoot and kill him. And they waited until he exercised. They watched him get back into his vehicle, and then, like hunters, traveled and followed all of this time period straight to his home. And there was no hesitation. He knew exactly what they were going to do. Without any hesitation, they pulled right in behind Danny. Danny's car was still running, the garage door was up, and Sigfredo Garcia exits the car and shoots Danny Markel, having done nothing to these men, in the head twice. How Mr. Markel survived, I don't know. But then Luis Rivera is the getaway driver. They flee the scene, they flee Tallahassee, and then Mr. Rivera stops to allow Sigfredo Garcia to dispose of the murder weapon, which has never been found. And then he drives back to South Florida like nothing has happened, purchasing motorcycles and cars, but most importantly, getting paid for the work that he's just done. The payment came from Catherine Vanois, and I'll address her in the next segment. The point here is, Judge, that over time, reading different things, you've heard a lot of arguments about what Mrs. Adelson's participation allegedly was. But when it comes down to it, and I didn't mention, but Luis Rivera did have an extensive criminal history at the time that he committed this offense. What actually came out at trial with respect to Mrs. Adelson, and I'm saying this understanding, as you've learned, that Mrs. Adelson still maintains that she is innocent of this conduct. But what the state was able to show through their testimony and evidence was that the role that she played, according to them in the prosecution, was very minimal. The evidence showed that she was very upset when relocation was denied in 2013, not knowing that her daughter had agreed to it, not knowing that until she sat here in trial hearing her daughter's testimony. She wrote some very ugly emails. She said some very ugly things. But in not one of those emails did it ever say that she wished harm upon Danny Markel. And this was in 2013. The evidence was presented by the state that was over a year later that Danny was killed after relocation had been denied. Although they argued that there was continued hostility on the part of Mrs. Adelson regarding the issue of relocation, with the hundreds of thousands of emails they had, they didn't present evidence that this ongoing dispute was being brought up in any way between the parties. The relocation between them, that issue had stopped. The testimony that was elicited was that Charlie Adelson, the son of Mrs. Adelson, was the one who was close with Mrs. Adelson, and that when she had a problem, the argument from the state was, when she had a problem, Charlie was the problem solver. And the testimony at court that was presented by the state supported that theory, that Charlie was the problem solver. They further elicited evidence, testimony, that without any knowledge of what the phone calls were, Catherine Magbanawala testified that when she was with Charlie Adelson discussing scenarios, which she didn't describe what scenarios she was discussing, that on occasion there would be a phone call between Charlie and his mother. She didn't hear the mother speaking. In fact, he left the room when he talked to, allegedly, the mother, and he came back in. He never relayed to her any information about the phone call. But the state's theory and the evidence that they presented was because Donna Adelson had been so upset about the fact that relocation was denied, and she continued to be upset, according to the testimony, that Charlie Adelson took it upon himself to reach out to someone, which was his girlfriend, and have her get someone that she knew who could commit this murder, make contact with them. According to the testimony in the state, in this case, Charlie Adelson told Catherine Magbanawala, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, it's just those the names were used, but Mrs. Magbanawala, that she wanted him killed and he would pay for that to happen. Her testimony was she had no idea what the payment was going to be, but she did in fact reach out to the father of her children, Sigfredo Garcia, and he agreed to commit the homicide. Mr. Garcia then elicited Luis Rivera to participate with him in the homicide. And I'm not going to go through all the evidence in the case. I want to focus on what Mrs. Adelson allegedly did. Up until the point of the homicide, the only evidence that was presented about Mrs. Adelson's participation were those ugly emails. And there's a distinction, as we discussed during the trial and sometimes even at sidebar, of the evidence being up to the moment that Mr. Markel was killed. Up to that time, the only evidence introduced by the state in this trial for that time period were those ugly emails, and they were ugly. She called him very foul names. She said some ugly language. She clearly was not happy. And whatever conversations may have taken place while Catherine Magbanawala was inside Charlie Adelson's home and Charlie was outside talking to another person. Mrs. Adelson maintains her innocence. But if you're looking at this particular cause of this disparity in treatment, the state is asking that Mrs. Adelson be sentenced to obviously life on count 1, as she has to be, followed by 30 years in the Department of Corrections on counts 2 and 3. This is far in excess of the sentence that was received by the man who himself testified to hunting down Danny Markel, providing the gun for him to be murdered with, leaving the scene of the crime, disposing of the murder weapon, and going on with his life in his gang as he always had. In that disparity, Judge, it just doesn't reconcile with the facts here of what they say Mrs. Adelson did. Although there was a theme that she was the mastermind, I would argue to the court that the evidence did not show she was the mastermind in any way. The masterminds that were shown in this trial were Charles Adelson and Catherine Magbanawala. It didn't show any activity prior to Mr. Markel being killed where Mrs. Adelson was involved in any way.
Take away what you're arguing as the theme for the moment. The chief difference between Luis Rivera and your client is he entered into a plea, correct?
That's correct. He did enter into a plea, but that, according to the case law, that can be considered.
And he has also cooperated with the state, testifying in many trials.
He was a cooperating witness testifying in these trials. Mrs. Adelson not only has maintained her innocence, she was never offered anything from the state.
Please continue.
On the statutory basis that the defendant was an accomplice to the offense and was a relatively minor participant in the criminal conduct, some of what I've just argued applies to this one as well, Your Honor. But what I wanted to point out here were the ones that we didn't discuss. So Sigfredo Garcia was found guilty at trial, first-degree murder and conspiracy. His sentence was life on the homicide and an additional 30 years consecutive for the conspiracy count. He is the one who rode in the car. He is the one who obtained Luis Garcia to go with him. He is the one who sat in the seat knowing he was going to exit the car while they hunted down Danny Markel. And he's the one who got out and shot Danny Markel in cold blood. Left like nothing had ever happened. Along the way, made many stops, including getting out to hide the murder weapon, and then went on with his life. The killer is getting the same sentence that the lesser participant, the state is suggesting, get as well. Life in prison on count one, followed by 30 years for the conspiracy and solicitation. Luis Rivera, I've already told you what his role was. Catherine Magbanawala got the information from Charlie Adelson according to the evidence, and at his request, obtained someone, Sigfredo Garcia, to do the killing. She is the one who coordinated between Charlie Adelson and Sigfredo Garcia and Luis Rivera. Although she testified that she didn't know Luis Rivera was involved until after it was over, the evidence that the state submitted clearly contradicts that. She was communicating with Luis Rivera before, closely to the homicide, and then shortly thereafter. She's the one that spoke to him. She was sentenced on the first-degree murder to life in prison, and on the solicitation and conspiracy, she was sentenced to an additional 30 years. It was run consecutive. Again, the same sentence that they're asking for on Mrs. Adelson is the sentence that this woman who heard the request for a homicide, found the person to commit the homicide, stayed in communication with both of the individuals who are responsible for killing Danny Markel, followed up with them and provided payment to them, and then took payment back from them for her to keep for herself. She was also paid in this. She participated, knew it was happening. They had proof that she knew it was happening. That was submitted to the court. All of that evidence clearly distinguishable from the conduct that they presented in evidence about what Donna Adelson did. Charlie Adelson.
Michael, I look forward to hearing from the judge to see whether or not any of this is ringing true in his mind.
It's a common argument that you hear many times in terms of the incongruent treatment.
So we're going to see what happens. Ahead in the next hour, Court TV's Julia Janae was inside the courtroom for Donna Adelson's sentencing, and she will be joining us live from Tallahassee at 6 p.m.
Still to come on Court TV on the other side of the break, the fiery day of sentencing for Donna Adelson continues after she proclaims her innocence during her allocution, but the judge wasn't having it.
The court can take into consideration the utter lack of remorse that you are displaying.
Tonight. tonight on closing arguments. Convicted for the murder of her former son-in-law, Donna Adelson learns her fate. Vinny is back in the studio with a closer look at today's sentencing.
Closing arguments tonight at 8/7 Central, only on Court TV.
Donna Adelson wasn't a regular mother.
She's the matriarch mastermind.
She's just being a parent, not a killer.
Victim to Verdict with Ted Rowlands. Season finale, Saturday night at 8 Eastern and Pacific.
Only on Court TV.
I had no idea that other people planned to cut Danny's life short. And the people who did this are exactly where they deserve to be. But I had no knowledge that this horrible, evil act was going to take place. If I had become aware of this plan before Danny was murdered, I would have stopped it. With not one iota of actual evidence, the state convinced a Tallahassee jury that I solicited and conspired with other people to have Danny killed. Where is the evidence prior to the murder?
That was Donna Adelson just a little while ago, proclaiming her innocence at her sentencing, and the judge letting her know he didn't quite appreciate it, and he can consider her lack of remorse. I want to take you back inside that Florida courtroom now for the sentencing of Donna Adelson. The defense is continuing its argument to the judge.
The testimony in this trial and his own, Charlie Adelson wanted Danny Markel dead. So on his close or very first date with Catherine Magbanawa, he asks her out in public at Halloween, some Halloween function, hey, do you know anybody who could get somebody killed? According to her testimony, she followed through with that. With Charlie Adelson, never with Donna Adelson, never communicated with her in any way about this. She worked then, if that's what happened and that's what's been testified to, she worked with Charlie Adelson from October of 2013 until Danny Markel was brutally killed in July of 2014. That entire period, and there's evidence, she admitted to most of it, to her conduct, and there's evidence that was presented in this trial in Charlie's that that's what happened. They made this plan, and that his stapled money was used to pay the killers in this case some $130,000 in cash that was divided up amongst Sigfredo Garcia. Sorry, my mouth was getting dry. Excuse me.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Judge. It was divided up between Sigfredo Garcia, Catherine Magbanawa, and Luis Rivera. She then stayed in contact with Charlie Adelson. She convinced Charlie Adelson to get paychecks written to her, and she received those paychecks each time from Charlie Adelson. So for what Catherine Magbanawa did and what Charlie Adelson did, the evidence in this case shows it went far beyond what the state's evidence showed that Donna did, up to and including the time that Danny was killed. So again, if you're going to rate the level of culpability in this case and consider Mrs. Adelson's conduct as compared to those, they're asking that she get the same sentence as both of the people who killed, well, one person that did the killing, Sigfredo, a far more extensive sentence than Luis Rivera, who participated in the killing himself and only got 7 years. The same as Catherine Magbanawa, that apparently worked on this according to the evidence for many, many months and stayed involved even after that. Charlie Adelson is the only one who got a higher sentence. His sentence was life on count 1, the homicide, followed by 30 years on count 2 and another 30 years on count 3, so everything being run consecutively. The evidence that the state has presented is that Charlie Adelson is the one who masterminded this. That's what they've shown. Even though they said Catherine Magbanawa wasn't her trial, if there's somebody who started this, according to the evidence, it's Charlie Adelson, not Donna Adelson. All the work being done was Charlie Adelson. All the money that was paid was Charlie Adelson's money. Mrs. Adelson, according to the state's evidence, did not do any of that. Again, they had hundreds of thousands of dollars or hundreds of thousands of emails. Never one in all of those emails that we all had to go through did Mrs. Adelson ever suggest any harm to Danny Markel in any way. I understand the verdict, and she has a right to take an appeal, and that's what she'll do. But the evidence and what was argued is very far different in theory than what was actually presented to this jury. And I'm requesting that Your Honor, in determining a sentence on counts 2 and 3, take into consideration that the amount of activity that everyone engaged in this case was far, far beyond what was alleged against Mrs. Adelson. They just didn't come up with the proof for that. They did prove to a jury that she was involved, but that proof and the actual evidence was very limited to the conduct that they say that she engaged in that resulted in Mr. Markel's death. I do want to remark, if I may, just briefly on the issue of remorse. Mrs. Adelson maintains her innocence, and as she has a lawful right to do, will seek an appeal. She may not get another trial. There may or may not be parts of the finding of the jury that is reversed, may not. They can do that on, the appellate court can do that on 1, 2, or 3 counts. There are lots of options that the appellate court has. The reason I say that is this. Mrs. Adelson, maintaining her innocence, could not have shown more remorse for the killing of Danny Markel. And in her statement, although some of it I know was bothersome to the court, in her statement, I hope you heard.
I wouldn't say bothersome to the court.
Okay.
Please continue.
Okay. I misread then. I apologize based on your comments. One of the things she said in her statement, after most of her statement being about the horrible thing that happened to Danny Markel, was that the people who were responsible for it were in prison. That's a pretty big statement considering what the state believes Mrs. Adelson's position is with respect to the others who've been prosecuted, convicted, and are serving sentences in the Florida Department of Corrections. I also want to say this. The defense's position in this case, from start to finish, has always been, on behalf of Mrs. Adelson, beyond respectful to the victim in this case, Danny Markel. He should not be lost in this case, and I said that in my opening statement. We presented evidence about a wonderful man he was. He did not deserve for this to happen. The Markels gave their...
Let's bring in our guest this hour, criminal defense attorney Silva Megardici. And Silva, of course, thank you for being on with both of us. Let me ask you about the defense's arguments in terms of Luis Rivera. We know that he pled guilty to this crime for second-degree murder. His sentence was only 19 years in prison. And so the defense continues to bring this up to suggest that therefore Donna Adelson should not get the 30 years on the other 2 counts. Life in prison on the top counts mandatory, but on the others. Do you think that argument holds water for this court?
Oh, thank you, Judge Ashley, and thank you, Michael, always for having me on. Love you both. Look, Judge Ashley, I actually think the defense is doing a remarkably good job. I feel like Attorney Fulford, she's, really Donna Adelson got her money's worth. I think the argument is very well put together. I think it makes sense, and it is a common sense argument. Now, look, this is Donna Adelson's final swan cry, right? Essentially, she's 75 years old. The appeal process is going to take time. Yes, her statement, it wasn't the most appropriate statement out there, but this woman has nothing to lose. And I think, Judge Ashley, for the appellate process, really the defense attorneys are banking on count 2 and 3. And I think it is an extremely common sense argument. Look, a lot of people want parity. They want there to be fairness in sentencing. And she's really laying it out there, I think, in a very clear, concise manner that also sets it up for the appellate process as well.
Yeah, and I agree, but both Donna and a lot of other people who spoke for her were really about her innocence. I want to listen quickly to something Harvey had to say earlier. He got some things off his chest as well, then we'll discuss. Let's take a listen.
My wife sacrificed everything
so that she could pour her heart and soul into our children, our grandchildren, and our marriage. This summer was our 54th wedding anniversary, and I had to spend it without her, hand in mine. She has done nothing wrong, and yet is being punished for a crime that she did not commit. I thought we lived in a different kind of world, but I guess I was wrong. I have listened, watched, and sat in the courtroom for the entire trial, and I could not help but scream in my mind by the witnesses that were brought forward by the prosecution who told outright lies. I didn't know that you could lie in a courtroom.
And I gotta say, Silva, that was kind of his sentiment, and parts of Donna's statement went along the same route. The fact that the judge made mistakes, for instance, not changing venue, things of that nature. Those cannot be those cannot be good arguments to put in front of a judge at this point in a trial.
Absolutely not, Michael. You're absolutely correct. But here's the issue. What do they have to lose? This is a man who's a ride or die for his wife. He's a man who is passionate about her, who loves her. They've been married for decades. It makes sense where it's coming from. And as a defense attorney, unfortunately, we see inappropriate statements all the time from family members of defendants who just want their anger and frustration to be heard. I watched it live on Court TV, Michael, and I have to say, when they brought up biasness from the judge and the jury, you don't want to say that a judge who's about to deliver a sentence to your wife is biased and was essentially, had a dog in the fight. You can't do that. So who advised him of that? I have no idea, but really a bad message from Harvey.
Bad message is true.
Yeah, we were wondering if maybe the jury, the defense attorney had seen it or not. We're not sure. I don't know about Harvey's. Certainly Donna's, I think she did. All right, stand by, Silva. We're going to take a break here, folks. When we come back, we'll have more from that sentencing of Donna Adelson in Florida, so keep it here on your front row seat to justice.
Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Ashley Wilcott.
And I'm Michael Ayala, back now to Tallahassee, Florida, where sentencing is underway for the matriarch mastermind, Donna Adelson.
Adelson faces life in prison after being found guilty of orchestrating the murder-for-hire plot to kill her daughter's ex-husband, Dan Markel, back in 2014. We've already heard from Donna herself today, and now we're hearing from her defense attorney. Let's get you back inside the courtroom.
Of the verdict that was issued by the jury. And I listened to every single word. And every single word that they said came out of the terrible grief from the loss of their son and the feelings that they have developed over the course of this 11 years in prosecuting these various people and additional information that has been given to them. Every word they had every right to say. The feelings that they had are exactly what they should have. What happened to Danny Markel, as Donna Adelson has said in her statement, could not have been more horrific. He was treated like an animal, completely unaware that there was any kind of problem, that he would have any kind of physical altercation with anybody. I'm positive the furthest thing from his mind that day was that someone was going to kill him in his garage at his home. He did not deserve what he got. It's been very clear in the prior prosecutions and what was presented in Mrs. Adelson's trial about the conduct of these other individuals. They do deserve to be where they are. They do. Their conduct is unimaginable to me, that human beings would engage in that kind of conduct to bring a man, an innocent man, a well-respected man, an amazing father, to take him away from his mother, his father, his sister, most importantly, his children. That was horrific. I understand why those sentences were imposed. Not for Mr. Rivera, but for the ones that were tried and convicted. In this case, Judge, based on the evidence that was presented, the defense is going to ask on counts 2 and 3 that you sentence Mrs. Adelson to 3 years in the Florida Department of Corrections, counts 2 and 3 to run concurrently. my understanding, and the clerk can tell me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is Mrs. Adelson has 701 days credit time served. That's what we calculated.
I'll stipulate to 701, Your Honor.
Very well.
Anything more on counts 2 and 3, Judge, first of all, in order for it to assist Mrs. Adelson, she's going to have to be successful on count 1 on appeal. If she is, anything more than that period of time is going to basically be a death sentence for Mrs. Adelson. She is soon to be 76 years old. Her health has gotten worse while incarcerated, as anyone would probably expect. Her husband is 81 years old. Compared, 3 years compared to the man who participated in the killing getting 7 years, I believe is a just and reasonable sentence for Mrs. Adelson. We are also going to ask, Your Honor, after imposing sentence, I know it's nothing but a recommendation, but we would ask if you make a recommendation to the Florida Department of Corrections that Mrs. Adelson be placed as close to Miami as possible, where her husband resides, so that she can have visitation. I understand we don't have any control over Department of Corrections, but we would appreciate that recommendation. And may I have just one moment, please?
Go ahead.
While she's doing that, Judge, I would ask that Ms. Adelson not be housed with Ms. McBannell, or at least have a separation, if you could recommend that. I know Ms. McBannell is currently at Lowell CI.
Yes, Judge, I thank you for that, Ms. Kappelman. I wanted to raise that issue because we did check into that. Judge, I contacted the Florida Department of Corrections. They did indicate that they would be able to keep them separate, but that doesn't necessarily mean that folks who are familiar with and friendly with Mrs. McBannell wouldn't be where Mrs. Adelson would be. So we are concerned about that, about her being placed at that facility. I didn't know it before, but the reception center for the women actually keep inmates there. So that I know that's a possibility, but again, that's in Ocala, and we're respectfully requesting that she be placed closer to Miami. Thank you.
Going to review the last case the defense has presented for downward departure. Ms. Kappelman, you had something else?
No, Your Honor, I don't.
We'll review the cases for downward departure, or in support of downward departure, the defense has argued.
All right, so the judge saying he's going to go back and consider some of the cases provided by the defense seeking that downward departure on those remaining charges, which carry about 30 years with them. They want something less. Let's bring back in our guest. Joining us to discuss still, criminal defense attorney Silva Megadichian. Silva, I get the argument that they're making, and it does make sense, as you mentioned, the idea that the really bad guys in this thing got less, so maybe she should get less. But I think that asks for this quantitative description or decision based on the involvement, right? The person who sets it in motion versus the person who does it, which is worse? I contend the person who sets it in motion is worse.
You know, Michael, I wouldn't disagree, but I think the defense in this capacity is doing what they need to do. They can't put all of their argument into one box, right? They have to argue something. And honestly, the conspiracy issue that they have, it is, the facts are not good, but what else can they argue? I actually do think, considering what they had, they did a very good job. They can't spend the time arguing that she's innocent. That's not allowed. They have to take what they have and spin it in the best way possible. Unfortunately, Michael, you're absolutely right, though. This judge has not been very friendly to a lot of the defense's argument, and definitely not Donna Adelson's comments whenever she's made any statements in that court, either complaining about the food or otherwise. It's not taken well. So, look, the defense did their job, but I don't think the judge is going to have much sympathy.
And I just have to ask, and Lord, I need to find out if we need to go to a break yet. I may have missed that. I had one more question, but they'll let me know if I need to cut you off and we need to go to that break. Okay, we do need to go to a break. I'm going to come back to you about the argument that they want 3 years for count 2 and 3, so that if the first conviction is overturned for the top charge, then she doesn't have a death sentence, so to speak. All right, before we go to break, though, we do have a quick programming note. In Florida, testimony resumes tomorrow in the toxic relationship murder trial of Daisy Link. Link is accused of fatally shooting her on and off again partner Pedro Jimenez back in June of 2022.
Now, the couple shared 2 children together and by all accounts had an extremely toxic relationship. But the defense says that Jimenez was particularly out of control in that day, forcing Link to shoot in self-defense. The prosecution is expected to rest tomorrow after potentially calling 1 more witness. Then the defense will begin their case. Testimony resumes tomorrow morning at 10 a.m.
All right, let's step aside now for that break. When we return, the judge speaks and begins delivering the sentence for Donna Adelson. That's next.
180 potential jurors were asked if they had developed an opinion in my case. Those that answered yes also added, "I believe she is guilty." Not one person, not one, said, "I think she may be innocent." That should have been a clue to the court to grant our motion for a change of venue. But the court denied the motion. One of my jurors admitted during jury selection that she had background information concerning what one of the state's witnesses would be testifying about. Why was she allowed to be on my jury?
I'm going to ask you a lot of intensely personal questions. How do you explain it? The worst crime anyone can imagine. Do you feel like you took the fall for this murder? Tell me in your own words, what happened? Let's get started.
Interview with a Killer. New season premieres Saturday, October 25th. Only on Court TV.
Welcome back. Let's go back inside the courtroom. For more of the sentencing of Donna Adelson in Florida, the judge has started delivering the sentence. Let's listen in.
That has been presented. The court has reviewed its notes of the trial and will rule on the issue of downward departure at this point. Florida Supreme Court has a 2-part test concerning whether a downward departure should be granted or could be granted by the trial court. The first is whether the trial court can impose a downward departure sentence based on a valid legal ground proven by a preponderance of the evidence. The second step is whether the trial court decides whether it should impose the downward departure based on the totality of the circumstances. As to both the non-statutory grounds that have been argued and the grounds contained within section 921.0026, subsection 2, subsection B. In reviewing the trial court's notes, what has been argued by both the defense and also as well the courts relying on the record itself, court will find that there is a ground for non-statutory downward departure, but it declines to exercise its discretion. As to the statutory ground, I will find that both the defendant was an accomplice to the offense and a relative minor participant in the criminal conduct. I will find that has not been proven, but in addition to, the court would still decline to exercise its discretion. As to the sentence in this matter, Ms. Adelson, please rise. The level of planning and coordination to bring the murder of Professor Markel to fruition was significant in this case. These were not crimes of chance or opportunity, and these crimes also required you to conspire with your son and others. You certainly can choose to deny your involvement and maintain innocence. The court finds the evidence in this case is clear. You will be sentenced accordingly this afternoon. The jury has found you guilty on charges of first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, and solicitation to commit first-degree murder, and the court previously adjudicated you guilty as to these same charges on September 4th of this year. On count 1 of the indictment for first-degree murder, you are hereby sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole or release pursuant to sections 782.04 and 775.082 sub 1 sub A Florida statutes. On count 2 of the indictment, conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, you are hereby sentenced to 30 years in the Department of Corrections that will run consecutive to count 1. The court will also sentence you to 30 years in the Department of Corrections on count 3. Counts 2 and 3 are to run concurrent with each other, but consecutive to count 1. As to the fees and costs, the clerk can please announce those at this time.
$2,100 is a fine pursuant to section 775.083, $105 as the 5% surcharge required by section 938.04, $20 as a court cost pursuant to section 938.06, crime to stop with trust fund, $3 as a court cost pursuant to section 938.01 subsection 1, criminal justice trust fund, $50 pursuant to section 938.03, crimes compensation trust fund, $225 pursuant to section 938.05, local government criminal justice trust fund, $2 as a court cost pursuant to section 938.15, county criminal justice education, $50 as a court cost pursuant to section 775.083 subsection 2, county crime prevention, $65 as a court cost pursuant to section 939.185, county additional court costs, and $3 as a court cost pursuant to section 938.19, teen court assessment.
Is there any lawful objection by the defense to these assessments?
No, Your Honor.
They will be assessed at this time. The cost of prosecution, the court will reserve jurisdiction on to determine for 60 days. If a hearing needs to take place concerning this matter, that will take place at a future time. As the defense's request for the court to make a recommendation to the Department of Corrections to place Mrs. Adelson in a facility near Miami-Dade County, I have no problem making this recommendation. The Department of Corrections will have the final say because this is an administrative matter. I will also recommend to the department that Mrs. Adelson is not to be placed in any unit or facility that would also house Catherine McBanawa. The court did previously award to the state, based on the September 17th, 2024 continuance of the trial, costs that were related to that. Ms. Kappelman, part of what you're seeking to pursue, is that included within that, or is that a separate number?
Are you speaking of the costs that were ordered in Charlie Adelson's trial?
No. The day Daniel Rashbaum withdrew from the case and the trial had to be continued.
Okay.
All costs related to moving witnesses and other matters.
Yes, sir. I don't know the answer to that, but I'll make sure that they're only in there once.
Very well. The defendant is to be fingerprinted, 30 days to appeal. Please file the appeal promptly.
Your Honor, may I approach the clerk? We have put the...
Michael, to steal your words, no mercy, no downward departure, same as Charlie and Catherine, life plus 30 years.
Yeah, unless the appeal is successful, she will in fact die in prison.
Absolutely. Thank you, Silver Megodichian, for joining us.
Still ahead, a live report on Donna Adelson's sentencing hearing from Court TV's Julia Janae, who was inside that court today. So keep it here on your front row seat to justice.